Hello and welcome to CS209 Computers for Learning. I'm Professor Diana Franklin and I'm very excited to be your instructor this quarter for this class. Just to give a little bit of a course overview, there are a lot of different things we want to learn this quarter. One is about how people learn, so we're going to learn about learning. Then another one is game design, and you might be surprised at how much game design uses learning theory because people have to learn how to play the game. But we'll also be looking at game design. We'll be learning C# programming, which is an object-oriented programming language based on C#. And we'll do this all so that we can implement a learning application. You'll integrate what you've learned about learning in game design, and you'll make sure you're designing it not just for yourself, but for someone not like you. So when we're learning about learning, we'll start out with doing readings. And graduate students taking the course will have extra research papers, and undergraduates will have fewer research papers and more sort of pop media, more accessible readings. And then you'll be writing reflections, connecting the readings to your own learning. And then in class, we'll be discussing these reflections and engaging in some active learning breakout sessions so that you can learn from each other as well. We'll also be doing game design, so there's a textbook for this, Game Design Workshop, a play-centric approach to creating innovation games, and you can use either the 3rd or the 4th edition. And this is going to teach you a lot of dimensions of game development. It's really not just technical. Good game development incorporates a lot of aspects. And so there are lots of player types that engage for different reasons, and so you need to build that in. And so you'll be designing your game for all players with no resource limits. That is very important to remember. Your game design has no resource limits. It doesn't matter that it's a 10-week course. Your design is a good game. What you're expected to implement is not your full design. And so your implementation is going to be a reasonable subset for you to complete in 10 weeks. And in fact, we'll be doing labs that aren't specific to your game for the beginning of the quarter. So you'll really be implementing your game in just 4 weeks at the end of the quarter. And so it's definitely a small subset of your overall design. It's really just a proof of concept. And so this learning app is going to be done in Unity. And so the textbook is Learning C# by Developing Games in Unity 2019. You'll be working in pairs, though if somebody drops or there's an odd number of students, we will have groups of 3. But groups of 3 will not be the default. It's only if there aren't pairs left. And so Unity is a 3D game engine that is used in real game design, and you do scripting in C#. And so that's why we're also learning C#. The other reason for learning C# is that I think it's really important that students learn some object-oriented language. It doesn't matter if it's C++, Java, or C#, but something that has you learn the object-oriented concepts so that when you go on an interview, you know enough to be able to answer questions. So this class is going to be structured differently. It is my first time doing remote learning. Last year I was not teaching in the spring, and of course in the winter that was only the exam that was remote learning. So I hope you'll have some patience with me this quarter. We're going to have a combination of asynchronous and synchronous learning because we have to be cognizant of students who might be in different time zones or might have connection difficulty during class. So I'm going to try as hard as possible to make it so that we do only things during synchronous learning that are geared towards synchronous learning. So there's going to be a shorter time than normal. So even though we're starting, we'll start class at 10 a.m. instead of 9:40. And we probably won't go the whole hour every time because some of what I used to do in class, I'm going to make videos for, and you'll do those outside of class. So we'll be doing asynchronous independent learning, and then we'll be doing synchronous learning in class, and then of course there will be assessments. So asynchronous independent learning will be these readings that I talked about, and then some of them will be videos that I create that would have been what I would have done in class, but instead I'll have you do that outside of class. And then I'll have very short quizzes that are meant to verify that you have done the readings and have watched the videos prior to class. And that's very important. That's why I'm starting at 10 instead of 9:40. But It's very important you do these before class so that you can actually participate in the discussions fully. And then we'll have synchronous learning, and there are two purposes for the synchronous learning. One is so that if there was anything unclear in the video or reading, so that you can still ask me questions and we can still have a professor-student relationship that you would have gotten in class. And then the biggest reason actually is to learn from others, because I'm only one person and I learn a certain way. And I do know a lot of research on learning, so I can answer questions not only about my own learning, but also about what research says about other people's learning. But I think that it makes it even more concrete to actually learn from other people who are not like you about how they learn. Because when we're learning about how people learn, we want to learn about the variety of experiences. We don't want to hear from people like us. That just makes you think that you should just design for yourself, and you shouldn't. You shouldn't just design for yourself. So we'll have breakout sessions during class for small groups so that you can talk to other students and find out about their learning experience and how it might be different from yours, and how you would change your ideas on how you would teach based on other people's learning styles, or not learning styles, but other things that have worked for them. So we have a few different ways of doing assessment. Those quizzes that I talked about, I don't consider those assessments. Those are just verification that you did the prep work, but you can consider that assessment if you wish. But what we'll really do is we'll have written project design milestones and a final design, so that's for your learning application. We will have an online exam partway through the course that tests you on C# and the learning theory that we've done and game design theory that we've done so far. And then we'll have the project, the implementation project, which I consider a minimum viable product. So you and I will, each group and I will just come to agreement on exactly what is required out of that MVP.